Hi everybody, welcome to Something to Think About. We're hoping to share some ideas that will give you something to think about. In this episode, we're going to talk about candid feedback. I'm your host, Fred. Let's get to it. To get started, I want you to think about a time somebody gave you feedback that was very helpful to you. What was it about that feedback that made it so helpful? What did the person do that made the feedback impactful? Chances are you grew or improved in some way because of that feedback. I also suspect the person that gave you that feedback made sure that you knew they cared about you and gave you very clear feedback to ensure you understood. Another term for this kind of feedback is radical candor. To learn more about this topic, I want to use the radical candor framework outlined by Kim Scott in her book, Radical Candor. You'll note on the y-axis is care personally and the x-axis is challenge directly. Let's talk about each quadrant. The upper right-hand quadrant is where we should always strive to be. We want to make sure the person we're giving feedback to knows that we care personally about them and then challenge them directly. When giving feedback, we need to remember its effectiveness is measured at the receiver's ear. If it looks like the person does not understand the feedback, then we may need to increase the challenge. If the person has a negative emotional reaction, we need to underscore that we're sharing the feedback because we care about them. Kim describes this quadrant as radical candor or being kind and clear. When we're in this quadrant, we have the best chance to help the person grow. When we move to the lower right-hand quadrant, we enter the obnoxious aggression zone, where we challenge directly but do not demonstrate that we care personally. You can also think of this area as just being a jerk. When we're obnoxiously aggressive with our feedback, we will not help the person grow much and leave them feeling defensive. Continuing around the framework to the lower left-hand quadrant, we enter the manipulative insincerity zone, where we do not care personally or challenge directly. In this zone, sometimes we'll tell people what they want to hear just with the hopes that it will benefit us somehow. Instead of focusing on helping the other person we're giving feedback to, our focus is really on ourselves. Moving to the upper left-hand quadrant, we enter the ruinous empathy zone, where we care personally but do not challenge directly. When we're in this zone, we care so much about the person that we don't want to give them the feedback because we worry about hurting their feelings or making them feel bad or just embarrassing them. In a ruinous empathy environment, a team may get along great, but the lack of feedback or direct challenge stifles improvement and growth. Ruinous empathy is a place where most of us make mistakes when it comes to giving feedback. Now that we have an overview of the Radical Candor framework, let's talk about how to use it. As a first step, introduce it to others you hope will give you feedback in your personal and professional life. Next, ask people to give you feedback by asking a specific question such as, what is something you've been meaning to tell me but have been holding back? Or, how could I have supported you better on Project XYZ? Or, what is something you wish I would stop doing that gets in your way? Embrace the feedback and absorb it, even if it's uncomfortable or you disagree with it. Ask questions to understand it better. Then thank the person and tell them you appreciate the feedback and their candor. Encourage them to continue to give you feedback. As you establish a culture of feedback by asking for feedback, you can also start giving more. When you demonstrate you can take feedback, people will be more open to receiving it from you too. Remember, feedback is not a one-time thing. It's a continuous cycle that fuels ongoing growth. Finally, keep in mind that feedback comes in both the form of praise and constructive criticism. Both are important for growth. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I hope I gave you something to think about. Take care.